Now on to our other top story on Newsline New York tonight. Billionaire financier Michael Milken sobbed in a packed Manhattan courtroom today as he pleaded guilty to breaking federal securities and tax laws and agreed to pay a record $600 million in fines and penalties. He faces up to 28 years in prison at sentencing on October the 1st, although some experts are saying he won't get more than 5 years. Milken pioneered the use of the so-called junk bond and became a symbol of the glory days on Wall Street. In fact, the junk bond kings at his firm, Drexel Burnham Lambert, were known at one point as the masters of the universe. Michael Milken's universe began crumbling after he was linked to an insider trading network by Ivan Boesky. He was indicted on 98 counts of fraud and racketeering, and his plea today is seen as a big victory in the government's crackdown on fraudulent practices on Wall Street. Our guest tonight on Newsline New York, our securities lawyer Ira Lee Sorkin, who says Michael Milken didn't make out so well in this deal today. New York Newsday business columnist Robert Reno, who thinks Milken got away cheap. And Dr. Erwin Kellner, the chief economist for Manufacturers Hanover, who has some thoughts on what effect the wave of junk bonds had on us all. But first, we're going to Newsline's Steve Dunlop, who's live on Wall Street with a report. Steve?
Well, Jack, just a few seconds ago, the bells down the street at Trinity Church went off, and no doubt they were tolling for Michael Milken. The highest-paid financier in Wall Street history was in tears today as he owned up to his errors before a judge. He changed American business more than anyone since J.P. Morgan. Then he embarrassed it more than anyone since Ivan Boesky. Michael R. Milken entered federal court a beaten man. And with his public admissions here, not just a reputation was destroyed, but a way of life. In the 1980s, Wall Street was one big party zone. The stock market zoomed nearly 2,000 points in 5 years, thanks in large part to a bidding war for American companies. It became known as the takeover boom, and junk bonds helped fuel it. Bill LeFay is marketing strategist for the financial services firm Advest.
Junk bonds were bonds of dubious credit value, but with very high returns, very high interest rates. Now, what would happen is that Mike Milken, who invented this stuff, would go out and would sell a junk bond, raising a bunch of money. He sold it to savings and loans generally.
By the middle 80s, junk, Milken, and the investment firm of Drexel Burnham Lambert, where he worked, had become almost synonymous. If you wanted to issue a junk bond, you went to Drexel. If you wanted to buy a junk bond, you went to Drexel. And if you wanted to sell a junk bond, you went to Drexel.
The savings bank wanted to get out of a bond, they could only do it with Milken's permission.
On October 19, 1987, the stock market dropped 508 points in a single session. One of the safeguards the government instituted following the crash was that savings banks carry junk bonds at market value, not face value. That exposed losses of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mr. Boesky has now...
For Rudolph Giuliani, the former U.S. attorney, catching the big board's bullheads became a personal crusade. By late 1987, he landed his first big fish, Ivan Boesky, a financier who made billions, pleaded guilty to insider trading. In exchange for more lenient treatment, Boesky agreed to talk. And he talked most about the man who handled his trades, Michael Milken.
It was only after Milken was unseated as the head of Drexel's high-yield department that the bonds began to wither and the saving banks began to have difficulties. As long as he was there, the bonds held up, and so did the savings banks.
In 1989, Milken was indicted on 98 counts of racketeering and fraud. The charge was that he and Drexel manipulated the junk bond marketplace and cost investors millions.
You read Tom Wolfe, Masters of the Universe.
Drexel fired Milken, but it was too little too late. Investors had lost confidence in Drexel's ability to trade in junk bonds. The firm collapsed.
Looking for a job on Wall Street. I've been working for 5 years. Very good at it.
And since Drexel was still the only junk game in town, the junk bond market collapsed with it. It's no coincidence that the entire city's free spending days are ending, that all over town trendy high-priced restaurants are now offering 2 free mimosas with brunch. Meantime, Michael Milken faced a deadline this week, either plead guilty to 6 of the indictment's most serious charges or risk being re-indicted for even more crimes. He chose pleading guilty.
Michael has acknowledged his responsibility for failing to comply with the law and placed his fate in the hands of the judge.
In court, Milken made a 10-minute statement to the judge. He ended it with an apology, choking back tears. "I realize by my acts that I have hurt those who are closest to me," he said. "I am truly sorry." So what was Michael Milken like as an individual? Well, according to a 1987 interview in Forbes magazine, Milken did not live like a fabulously rich person. His home is nice but not opulent. He doesn't put on airs. He goes to middle-class restaurants with his old high school friends. He gives his children small allowances, and the article adds, is furious at Forbes magazine for having printed stories showing the kids how wealthy they are. Now, all of that, of course, was favorable press, and Michael Milken won't be seeing the likes of that for quite a while. That's it from Wall Street, Jack. Back to you.
All right, Steve, thank you. We'll begin our discussion right after these messages. Stay with us.
You get time if you steal a loaf of bread, so he should have done at least 5 years for the crime. Look at all those people that don't have their jobs now.